Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Joey, and this is my UFC 262 post-fight. Charles Oliveira defeats Michael Chandler in the second round by KO to win the vacant lightweight title. And what an absolute amazing fight. This fight is probably easily the best fight of the year so far. If recency bias is just blinding me and I'm forgetting another fight that was better than this fight, please comment it down below and let me know. But this fight was just amazing from start to finish. I don't think there was 1 second where nothing was happening. It was just an amazing fight. And to see Charles Oliveira, after so long, I've been a believer in him. And I've been hyping him up for so long and believing he's one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. And to see him go out there and put on the performance that he put on tonight was just mind-blowing. And Michael Chandler, I know a lot of people probably think I was hating on Michael Chandler because I picked against him and I was confident that Charles Oliveira was going to win. But that's not the case. I like Michael Chandler. I believe in Michael Chandler. I just thought Charles Oliveira was the better fighter. And I'll say this, first of all. There's a lot of talk of who might be next for Charles Oliveira. Might it be Dustin Poirier versus Conor 3 winner, or maybe Justin Gaethje, or maybe Islam Makhachev? Fuck all that. Give me Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler too, because this fight was amazing. I was so excited for this fight, and I thought it would be exciting, but it exceeded all expectations. My prediction was second round submission, and I thought that Charles Oliveira would win the striking exchanges, and eventually Chandler would shoot in on a takedown and get submitted, but that's not really what went down at all. It was a second round stoppage, but not close to what I was saying. The first round was one of the craziest first rounds that I've ever seen. And Michael Chandler came out there and did exactly what we all thought he would do. Take the center of the cage and just press Oliveira super aggressively. The first minute or so, and I'm trying to remember, the fight was just so crazy, it's hard to remember everything that happened. But Charles Oliveira was looking good in that first 30 seconds to 1 minute. He was using the front kicks to the body, like I said in my prediction video. Even front kick to the head at one point to kind of keep the distance. But Chandler's just so explosive. And he was just throwing them body shots and then just jumping in with leaping left hooks. At one point, he landed something filthy. I think it was a left hook on Charles Oliveira's right temple. And cuts Oliveira and hurts Oliveira badly. Oliveira shoots in on a takedown, and Mike Chandler gets a tight guillotine. I thought it was going to be finished at this point, honestly. It looked super tight. I don't know how tight it truly was, but it just looked like he locked it up. Oliveira fights his way out of it. Somehow, at some point in time, ends up on Mike Chandler's back. And at this point, I'm like, holy shit, this fight's going to end in first round submission, because once Oliveira gets your back, and then on top of that, he got both hooks in, I thought for sure he's going to find some submission here. He eventually is working for submission, landing some ground pound, some good elbows to the side of Chandler's head. But eventually, somehow, Chandler finds his way to his feet and gets back up, lands another nasty left hook, I believe it was, and sat Oliveira down. He just crumpled down on all fours and almost started throwing, ground and pound, similar to when he hurt Dan Hooker, And the referee was this close to stepping in and stopping the fight. Mike Chandler was going to be your new UFC champion. But Big Dan gave Chandler the opportunity to recover. Oliveira flipped to his back. And then for pretty much the rest of the round. Oh, and what I'm forgetting, I forgot to mention in there because this fight was just insane. At one point when Oliveira had Chandler's back, how crazy was, for those who watched it, how crazy was that? When I don't know if it's advisable or smart, but Oliveira had deep hooks, had a deep back mount on it, Chandler, and Chandler just jumps up in the air and flips back and slams him. What a crazy. And I don't even know how he ended up getting out of the back mount. I can't even remember at this point. But so he sits Oliveira down with another left hook, starts ground and pounding. It looks so close to being stopped. Big Dan's giving a close look. Looks like he's about to jump in. Oliveira just does just enough movement for the fight not to be stopped. Eventually gets to his back. And Chandler is landing some brutal ground and pound. And he's playing that game with the up kicks, and Oliveira's looking for some up kicks. And Chandler's jumping in with some big right hook punches, looking for heavy ground and pound, looking for one of those ground and pound shots that knocks a dude unconscious. And he landed a couple hard ones with Oliveira up against the cage. Basically controlled Oliveira on the ground for the rest of that fight. Oliveira was looking for some submissions at some point, but he never got close at all. Round ends. Going into the second round, it was not looking good for Oliveira at all. But Michael Chandler was starting to wear down. And this is something that happens to Chandler over the course of his career. He has good cardio, but he tends to have bursts of energy, it seems like. Like he'll get tired in the second round, and then he'll get a second burst in the third round. We've seen it in plenty of his fights, his Eddie Alvarez fights. And the second round comes out. And I was actually shocked because I thought Oliveira was going to try to stay on his back foot, manage the distance, and try to recover a little bit because he took some heavy damage towards the end of that first round. Nope. He just comes forward. And I believe he landed a left hook and then just had Chandler hurt badly. And then he was sprinting around the edge of the cage, and Oliveira's just following him with nasty left hook after left hook after left hook. I think I counted by the time Oliveira dropped Chandler with those left hooks and followed up with the ground and pound all left hooks, just put him unconscious. This is not a TKO. This is 100% a KO. He was out cold. It was like 12 left hooks at some point. I knew they were technically ground and pound, so I don't know if they count as hooks or not. But it was just brutal ground and pound. Charles Oliveira is your new vacant lightweight champion. Well, I guess he's not vacant anymore. I don't know why I said that. But the new lightweight champion. And what a performance by both guys. And I said it earlier in the video, and I'll say it again. Give me Oliveira versus Chandler, too. That was an amazing fight. You got to feel for Mike Chandler. He put on an amazing performance in that first round. He faced adversity. He came back and was able to, basically almost finish Oliveira in that first round, like I said. And it could have easily been stopped. Nobody would have been complaining if Big Dan stopped the fight when he sat Oliveira down on all fours and was ground and pound. Nobody would have blamed Big Dan, but he didn't. Oliveira survives. Chandler had to be going in that second round super confident. And Oliveira just came out, just looking for the kill right away, which is just insane. He was hurt badly. He was cut on the eyebrow. He was bleeding pretty bad. And he just came out and looked for that kill. And in my prediction video, I said I thought, Oliveira was the better striker, but Chandler had had the power advantage. And even though Chandler did land some big shots and hurt Charles, I think I still stand by that. I think I saw enough. In that first minute or so, Oliveira was chopping the legs pretty good. He almost landed a step-in knee because Chandler's so much shorter. He almost landed a step-in knee on Oliveira on Chandler. He landed some great leg kicks, and Chandler has been susceptible to leg kicks his whole career. He's heavy on that front leg, and Oliveira landed some nasty smacking leg kicks to that knee. But Mike Chandler's super athletic, super explosive, and he has power in both of his hands. And he almost went from Bellator to UFC champion in 2 fights, and you got to respect that. And in his post-fight interview, he could not have earned more respect from people. He took his loss. He didn't make any excuses. He didn't come out and say, I was sick, or, make some type of excuse in the post-fight, which kind of diminishes your performance. I'm so glad he didn't do that. And Chandler will be back, no doubt about it. And I think he can beat anybody in the division, including Charles Oliveira. And I said I was confident in my prediction video that Charles Oliveira would beat him. But that power is a big game changer. I mean, you look at Derek Lewis, who, he's going to come across a lot of fights where he's the less skilled guy. But when you have that type of power, it changes everything about the fight. And tonight, we've seen an amazing lightweight fight. I was super excited for this fight, and it absolutely lived up to all expectations and surpassed them all. I can't wait to see Mike Chandler fight again. I can't wait to see Charles Oliveira fight again. I don't know what their next fights will be, but I say match them up again. Give me a rematch. I don't care about anyone else in the division. Conor and Dustin can go fight each other 6 more times. Gaethje can go fight somebody else for all I care. Give me Oliveira versus Chandler too. I mean, that fight couldn't have been more fun. Goes from almost stopping Oliveira in that first round to Oliveira getting the stoppage 20 seconds into the second round. I don't even know if I said that yet. 20 seconds in, I believe it was, which was just amazing. So Oliveira, 9-fight win streak now. He beats Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, and Michael Chandler in a row. What a great streak by Charles Oliveira. And to go from a guy who's been in the UFC since he was 20 years old to now he's the UFC champion. And I know that Khabib is done. He's not coming back. I'm 99% sure he's never coming back. But a dream fight of mine for years, long before Khabib was even speculated retiring, I always wanted to see Charles Oliveira versus Khabib. And it just sucks that we'll never see that because that would be such a fun matchup. Oliveira's submission skills, I'd favor Khabib in that fight, but that fight would be such a stylistic, amazing matchup. I would love to see that fight. That's literally a dream fight for me at this point. But got to give props to both guys tonight. Michael Chandler, to be in that back mount early in that first round and to somehow survive without getting submitted by Oliveira, that's a feat in itself. A lot of guys, lesser guys, would have been submitted by Oliveira, but he wasn't. And he almost finished Oliveira. Crazy fight. I can't wait to see either guy's next fight, and I hope it's each other. As soon as Oliveira landed that left hook that really hurt Mike Chandler, I knew it was over. I could just see it in Chandler's eyes, and he was just sprinting, trying to get away at all costs. And Oliveira was just sidestepping, just swinging those left hook after left hook. That's the only punch he could reach him with. He couldn't reach him with his right hand. He could only reach him with the left hand, and he just kept beating the shit out of Chandler till he dropped. The referee gave him every opportunity to survive it. It wasn't survivable, though. Those punches were heavy. And I said this in my prediction video, too, and another reason that I picked Oliveira. Every time Oliveira comes out there, his striking looks improved. There's guys that have looked the same for 5 to 10 years. Their skill set is good, but it seems like they never evolve. And Oliveira, every time that he comes out and he steps in the cage, he looks like he's gotten better. And that's one thing that I really look for in a guy that I believe will be a potential future champion, is the ability to evolve, the ability to improve. And Oliveira has shown me that. So it feels great to be right tonight. Michael Chandler almost had me, though. He almost put another loss on my record. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you thought of the main event. I'm going to move on to the co-main event, which is, I'm so happy about the main event. Just in general, it was a fun fight, regardless of who won. It was a super fun fight. But let's get into a more depressing subject. Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. Tony Ferguson has lost 3 in a row. He loses by decision, and the fight was just pitiful. The first 2 rounds went down pretty much how I thought they would. I thought Dariush would be able to get him down, hold him down, not do very much, not submit him. But the third round, I really thought Tony was going to turn it on and be able to potentially finish Dariush, because Dariush tends to fade in those third rounds. But it just didn't happen. In the second round, Dariush got a heel hook, and Tony just laid back and said, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to deal with the pain. He just had a grimace on his face, just dealt with it. The ankle was twisted, the knee was buckling, but he just dealt with it for a minute, just laid back, didn't even try to defend, and then started kicking Dariush's arms, somehow survived. Tony is an absolute savage. To survive that Charles Oliveira armbar, and then this Dariush, heel hook, or whatever you want to call it, what a savage. This guy is just insane. But this is now three losses in a row. Even though they're against quality guys, I was a guy that was a big believer in Tony Ferguson. I didn't think that his time had passed, that I think a lot of people were dancing on his grave too early. He fought Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, 2 absolute savages. Dariush is a quality fighter, but he's not on the same level as Oliveira or Justin Gaethje at this point, I don't believe. Definitely an elite fighter, don't get me wrong, but he's just not that championship caliber yet, in my opinion. Tonight's performance was unimpressive to me. Even though he controlled Tony, we've seen plenty of guys control Tony. He didn't really do much other than that one submission attempt. He didn't land too much ground and pound. He was aggressive on the feet. He was pressing forward nonstop, but it just wasn't it didn't impress me. I think the story coming out of this is poor Tony, basically. But what a maniac for not submitting to that heel hook in that second round. His ankle was just cranked up. Survives. I think that's a big reason why he wasn't able to try to turn up the pressure in the third round. His foot was fucked up. There's no doubt about it. His ankle was messed up. He wasn't walking straight. And I think that limited him, because I think Dariush was starting to fade a little bit. Not as much as I thought he would. But, man, it just goes to show Tony Ferguson has always had the takedown defense and the grappling issue forever. I mentioned in my prediction video, I picked Tony Ferguson. Completely wrong. I knew Dariush was the better grappler. I knew he was going to be able to out-grapple him, but I thought Tony would be able to come back in the third round and put him away. But it just goes to show I was talking about it in the main event, Charles Oliveira has perpetually evolved. Tony Ferguson has been the guy that we thought he was for 5 to 10 years at this point. He's been the same. Pressure, heavy stamina, heavy volume. And if you can take him down, he's basically done for. Unless he can submit you off his back, which he tried tonight. He tried his damnedest to submit Dariush, but he just wasn't able to do it. And I think that this may be Tony Ferguson's last fight in the UFC. As sad as it is to say that, the UFC doesn't like keeping guys around that they don't see moving towards a title. And Tony Ferguson's just good enough where, what are you going to have him knock off contenders now? You want to have a UFC legend and Tony Ferguson knock off contenders? I don't think anybody wants to, the UFC wants to see that. They want to see the contenders make their way to the, number one contender fights and stuff like that. Tony Ferguson is not going to fight for a belt ever again. And it's just sad, he's never going to be a legitimate, full-blown, undisputed UFC champion. He won the interim belt, was stripped of that after tearing his ACL on April Fool's Day, to say the least. Oh, God. I remember praying that was a joke. But I also think if I can look for one good thing out of Tony losing these last 3 fights and losing the way he did, particularly in the last 2, is Ferguson versus Khabib would have never been competitive. I knew this. I wanted to see the fight anyway. But Khabib would have took him down and controlled him and beat the living shit out of him. So if there's one silver lining, at least we don't have to feel like we lost the fight, Khabib versus Tony was supposed to happen 4 separate times and got canceled. And I think a lot of people for a while now, especially since last year after he lost to Gaethje, it felt like we lost that fight forever, and we did. But we don't have to feel like we're missing something. We know what would have happened in that fight, and Khabib would have dominated him in the grappling. Tony would have had to get a fluke submission to really beat Khabib, and I just don't think it would have happened. But Dariush finally got his step-up in opponent in Tony Ferguson, and he beat him, and he dominated him. It wasn't super impressive, though. He didn't do much. There was multiple times where I thought the referee could have stood him up, but he didn't. There was really no action, The most action on the ground was Tony Ferguson throwing elbows off his back. Dariush went for the one submission and basically should have had it, but Tony just does not tap to anything. Tony just does not tap. That's one thing I've learned in these last 2 fights. Oliveira tucking that arm underneath his armpit and cranking it as hard as he could, doesn't tap. This heel hook, tight as can be, would have tapped anybody else. He grimaced in pain. Supposedly Dariush heard the ankle pop. And no tap from Tony Ferguson. I wonder where Tony goes from here. He's an older guy. I think he's 37 or 38. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But I'm wondering where he goes from here. And it's sad to say, Tony's a fan favorite. He's a funny guy. He's a very strange guy. He's been such a fun fighter for so long. That pressure forward style, that stamina where you just drown guys. And now I don't know where to place him in the division at all. I don't know where he would be. So it's a sad day. Dariush gets a big win, but an unimpressive win. So another fight I wanted to talk about was Edson Barboza versus Shane Burgos. What an amazing fight this was. And, this card was great on paper. It was pretty good on paper. It used to be great on paper. We lost Jack Hermanson versus Edmund Shabazian, and we also lost Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards. So the card took a hit in the last 2 weeks, but Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza was a fight a lot of people were looking forward to. And I didn't do a prediction video for this fight, but I was picking Edson Barboza. And this fight absolutely delivered. Edson Barboza looked like he was playing a video game and he was just spamming the leg kick. He was just chopping Burgos' legs. Well, Burgos was eating them, If Burgos would have been Sean O'Malley, he would have had to been airlifted out of the cage because those leg kicks were just brutal from Edson. I don't know what the stat is on it, but it was just so many leg kicks. Both guys were landing. Burgos was just eating the leg kicks and even chopping Barboza's legs too, and it looked like he was doing more damage. But one thing I wanted to talk about was the finish. And it was just such a strange finish. It was a back and forth fight. I thought Barboza won the first 2 rounds. Some people said Burgos won the second round. I just think Barboza was landing the cleaner strikes. His hands were looking good. He was chopping the legs. He was landing to the body. He was getting pieced up a little bit himself. It was a back and forth fight, but I thought Edson won the first 2 rounds. But let me know in the comments what you thought. I'm curious what everyone else thinks. Some people thought the second round went to Burgos. That third round, Edson lands. I think he landed a jab and then a right hook. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. And it was like 5 to 6 seconds where Burgos was just standing there. The next thing you know, his lights just went off. He started to shrink down into a seated position. Then he just starts backing up, and then he just falls on his ass and then starts to go face down. And he was unconscious. Barboza was kind of thrown off as well because it was such a delayed reaction from the strikes that he landed. He followed up with 2 punches, but he didn't even need to follow up. Burgos was going face down. It was so weird. He got clipped, and then it was 5 to 6 seconds he was standing there like he was still fighting until he started to crouch and then fall backwards. It was such a weird finish. Sometimes you see these punches land and you see a delayed, knockout like this. But the referee got in there and I guess at the right time. He didn't need to eat those 2 follow-up shots. But it was such a weird finish. You really can't blame Barboza. You can't blame the referee for that. How often does that happen? That was such a strange finish. But Barboza looked great tonight. And I'm excited to see Barboza at 145. He looks excellent at featherweight. I think he can compete with any of the top featherweights. And let me throw out this matchup because I thought this earlier tonight. Imagine Barboza versus Yair Rodriguez. I know a lot of people want to see Yair versus Khabib, but it doesn't look like that fight's ever happened. And that's got the Khabib-Tony curse. Imagine Yair Rodriguez versus Edson Barboza. That fight would be absolutely incredible. I would love that stylistic matchup. UFC booked that right now. Barboza looked great tonight, and I'm excited to see what he can do at 145 because I know what he can't do at 155. He looks great. He says he's having a great weight cut. It's not too hard for him to get to 145. He's not blowing up like he used to. Supposedly, that's what he said. And Shane Burgos is a tough guy. And Barboza went out there and finished him tonight, finished him in that third round. And Barboza, and again, this gets back to talking about guys involving, coming out and looking better. I want to see Barboza just get better with the hands. He looked a little bit better with the hands tonight. But he's always been a kick-heavy offense, and he has great kicks. But, his hands have always left a lot to be desired, and I really want to see him some improvement with the hands. The kicks are always going to be great. He has some of the best leg kicks in the entire UFC, and great body kicks. I'll never forget that spinning back heel kick he landed on Terry Edom where he just froze him up and just slapped him. That was so long ago at this point. But I think Edson Barboza can compete very well at 145. And I can't wait to see who he fights next. And I'm praying that it's Yair Rodriguez. That fight would be incredible. I would love that fight. But I think that pretty much does it for this post-fight. Let me know in the comments what you thought of tonight's fights. I'm assuming everyone's favorite fight was the main event. What an incredible performance by Charles Oliveira. Let me know, seriously, if you're watching this video and you made it all the way to the end, please do me this favor. If you only do one thing, comment below and let me know who should Charles Oliveira fight next. I really want to know that. What do people think? Because I really want to see this rematch. Am I crazy? So if you can just do one thing for me, please comment down below. Who do you want to see him fight next? If you can do a second thing, please like the video. If you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.